Today we'll be looking at functional programming with JavaScript. But before we start, I would like to tell everybody a little bit about myself. I'm Soham. I'm currently in sophomore year and I'm exploring GraphQL and Vue.js currently. And we will be covering a total of 4 sections today, which is what is functional programming, how do you do functional programming, a little bit of something which is called as higher order functions, and a little more about functional programming in JavaScript. Uh, During the session, I would be looking at the chat after every 2 or 3 slides. So just ask your questions in the chat, and I would be answering as soon as I can. Otherwise, Ajit or Anshul will also help if they can. So let's start by what is functional programming. So functional programming is a paradigm. It is a way to write code. It's more of a style of writing code. It is also considered as a mindset that people follow while writing their code, which enhances the way that you write your code very much. You'll understand how and why I am recommending functional programming to you in further slides. So let us proceed. You just need to understand that it's a way in which we write code. Just like you generally write your code uh, in an imperative manner, like you tell your program what you do. This is another type of ideology that you follow while coding. So why should I do functional programming? Like I am good at coding. I can write big applications, set up websites. Why should I do functional programming? Well, there are mainly two to three points that I would like to put, which will make you interested in functional programming, which is less bugs. Your program will have less bugs. The code will be like easy to read, easy to reason, and hence it would be easy to debug. And you'll be able to write your code in less amount of time with the help of like pure functions and higher order functions, which we will come across later in the slides. And your code will have less side effects. Now, a side effect is something that you don't intend your function or your program to do, but it still produces some output that you don't want it to do. This kind of output or this kind of side effects are avoided and in functional programming. So yeah, nice. I like it. I'll be able to write code in less amount of time. I will have less bugs. I will have lesser side effects. I like it. But how? How to do functional programming? So before diving in, I would like to brief about the paradigm a little bit. In contrast to the paradigm that we generally use, which is the imperative style of programming. So in functional programming, you follow a declarative paradigm, which focuses on the what. That is, it is just, uh, you know, it does not have anything to do with how the function needs to work. You just tell the program or you just tell your machine what it needs to do, and the machine does the rest. In contrast to the imperative programming, you need to tell your machine how it needs to perform a task. Like for example, you're writing a for loop. In your for loop, you tell your program that start your iteration from the 0th index. Then you have a termination condition. Then you have an increment statement. So you tell your program that how it needs to do it and when it needs to do it. But in functional programming, you just need to tell your program what to do. Well, you'll understand what I mean to say when we look at some code and look at the outputs. Uh, right now, if anyone has any doubts, you can ask me If I'm going too fast, you can tell me if I'm going too fast. Anyone, if anyone has any doubts, because we will be going into some other concept right now. If we have no doubts, we can proceed. Just tell me that we have no problems right now. Okay. Okay, cool. So I guess everybody understands that it's just a way to code. There is something called as declarative programming. We just tell what we need to do, not exactly how we need to do it, which will be clear after we look at some of the code. So let's talk about functions a little bit. So what are functions? Well, I believe if someone asks us what functions are, the most basic definition that we can give is something that takes an input, processes it, and gives an output. Now there was an error in the animation, so that's why that image got stuck there. So in functional programming, we majorly focus on one type of functions that are called as pure functions. To understand what pure functions are, let us take a look at something which is not a pure function. That is a impure function. So if you look at this code segment right here, I have a string named name and a function which is assigned to a little impure. And what the function does is it takes an argument x and then logs the number multiplied by a random number between 0 and 5, and also prints the name with my name is, and the x. Oh, there is a error right here. There should be name on this line. If I can just show it to you in a second. Yeah, there is an error on this line. This should be name. So if you look at the output when I call this method twice, you see that there is a number generated and then it prints a string on the console. When I call this method again, it prints another number and the same string on the console. So now, why is this method an impure function? Well, first of all, in pure functions, the only thing that the function needs to be dependent upon is its argument. But here you can see that the function is generating a random number between 0 and 5, which makes this function impure. And also, since this function uses a variable which is outside the scope of the function, which is this name, which is getting printed right here. So this also makes the function impure, because a pure function is uh, not affected or should not be affected by any code that is outside the function itself. And the last thing that makes this function impure is that uh, the function is not returning anything, right? The function needs to return something which should only be dependent upon its parameter. Do we understand why this function is impure and what is the difference between pure function and impure functions? If yes, please give me some feedback in the chat. Okay, so now let's take a look at a pure function. Now, this may be a very generalized and a very simple pure function, which just takes an argument x and a string and just returns the string concatenated with another string and an integer or a number or a variable x. So now when I call this function right here, this function returns me this string which logs the output properly. So this can be considered a pure function. Now you can understand what the difference between these two functions are, right? So in functional programming, we try to create functions that are pure. I guess there is a question. The voice is not good enough on my device. Am I audible, guys? Is my voice cracking? Okay, it's probably some issue with. Uh, okay. Okay, I guess I would. I think I should proceed. Maybe it's some issue with the internet. Okay, let's proceed. So we just looked at what pure functions are. Now, before proceeding into doing actual functional programming, let us dive a little deeper into a little more theory and understand what higher order functions are. Now, in JavaScript and any other functional programming language, functions are values. So, just like any other variable, you can pass functions into other functions, which are higher order functions, or you can return functions from another functions, which are also higher order functions. So basically, you can pass around functions just like any other variable or any other object and compose them together to make uh, higher order functions. If we take a look at functions that return functions, here we have a function called adjectifier, whose body is right here, which takes in a string and returns another function. Now when I call this method adjectifier and pass it a string, what it will do is it will return a function with this string predefined as my input right here, and this function would be assigned to this variable called coolifier. Now I have a function coolifier that returns cool plus anything that I pass to the function. And I also have another function called badifier, which just adds bad to anything that I pass to the function. So when I call coolifier and pass class to it, you get cool class. Like the class is the string right here, which is printed right here, and this adjective is what we defined right here. So whenever I call coolifier, it just adds a string cool before the string that I pass it. Similarly, coolifier cat will give you cool cat, badifier person will give you bad person. So here we see that how simple functions can return other functions, which are higher order functions. Similarly, functions which can take other functions as arguments are also higher order functions. So here we have an array of objects, array of Pokemons, since I like anime. We have Meowth, which is a cat. We have another Pokemon, which is a cat. We have Glameow, which is a cat. We have Pikachu, which is a mouse. Dialga, Parkia, and their respective types. So what we are going to do now is we are going to filter out the cats because I like cats. So let's take a look at how we would do in the imperative style, like in general how we do it. So we take an array, and then we have a for loop. We iterate from I equal to 0 till the length of the Pokemon's array, and then we check if the type is a cat and we push it into the cat's array, right? And when it gets finished, you'll get a filtered array of these three objects. uh, does everybody understand? Oh, if someone else is confused, I think of it as two functions. Yeah, exactly. Think of it as mathematical functions. Higher order functions can be h of x. Yes, you just pass another function g of x inside a function f of x, which is f of g of x. There are two return statements in the previous example. Okay, let's just jump back to the previous example. And yes, uh, Vamsi, right? Yeah. So this is a variable which is assigned a function right here. Okay. Just like Ajat said right here in the comment, assume that this function is the upper function which just returns another function. In you can return functions basically in any functional programming language. You can return functions. So basically, what this function is doing, this function is returning another function. So that's just like you can return integers, strings, booleans, etc. You can also return functions. So what this is doing is the outer level function is just returning another function. So whenever I call adjectifier, it is just returning me this function body right here with this defined using this. Do you understand, Momsi, what I mean to say? Okay, cool. So higher order functions, pretty smart, huh? So we were looking at this example, the filtering of cats. I hope that everybody understands what we are trying to do here. We are just trying to filter out the cats from this array. Now, this is a pretty straight example of how you can filter cats and then get them pushed into another array. Now, in functional programming, there is a higher order function called filter. Now, what this filter does is this filter takes in a function as argument, just like we returned another function in the previous example, which is this function. What filter does is it takes another function as an argument, and this function just returns a truthy value, which decides if the object needs to be filtered or not. So what this does is it takes the Pokemon's array right here, and then this function checks if the Pokemon type is cat, and if it is, then it puts the result into this cat variable. So now you see that this whole amount of code gets compressed into just one single line of logic. This is what I meant by the what in the declarative style of programming. In imperative style, you need to define everything. How do you need to do? Like, how do you need to push? How do you need to iterate? But in declarative style of programming, you just need to tell what do you need to do. Whenever Pokemon.type cat, you do filter. How do you do it? I'm not going to tell you. You handle it on your own, and it handles it pretty nicely. We'll take a look at how it is even better than the conventional for loops that you use. If you have any doubts in this filter example, you can ask me in the chat. If you have no doubts, please tell me that we can proceed, and you have no doubts. Guys, do we have any doubts? Okay, Darshit has no doubts. Gaurav has no doubts. So let's proceed. Let's proceed. So functional programming gives us a power to be more expressive. It tells us to be more expressive. Now we talked about how our code will be easy to read, easy to understand, easy to debug. Now let's take a look at how. So this is a pretty small code segment. Uh, the first line is just a library that I'm using, which is lazy.js, which helps me do functional programming in a better way. There are many other libraries that you can use to help you write your code in a functional manner. We will talk about them a little bit later. So let's take a look at what I have written in the code. So here we have a variable numbers, which is just a list of numbers from like 1 to 50, 0 to 49, and then we have three functions. Now, this is just another way to write functions in JavaScript. What it means is that isEven is a function that takes in an argument called num, which is basically a number, and whatever you write after this arrow is what the function returns. So what this function is returning right now is if number is divisible by 2, and what is actually it's returning the remainder when you divide the number by 2, and I'm just negating that value to get if the number is divisible. So basically what this function does is it checks if the number is divisible by 2 and checks if it is even or not. Similarly, this is another function which takes in a number, checks if the number is divisible by 7. This is another function that just halves the number that it's passed. And then we take a look at two filter functions right here. One is the functional way, and one is the iterative way or the imperative way. So here we have a filter method called, which we pass this function called isEven. Just like in the last example, we passed a function right here. This is a similar segment which just passes a function, this function, right, which checks if the number passed to it is even. Similarly, this is another filter method attached to it that checks if the number is divisible by 7. Then there is another function called map. What map basically does is it changes your data in a way that you want it to be changed. So you just pass map another function which tells the map how you want your data to be changed, what it needs to do with the data. So I have passed half it to map. So what it will tell the map function is that whenever you get a number, you map it with half of its value, and then I convert everything into an array and pass it to the filtered variable. So what we will get in an output is this, which is basically all the numbers which are even, divisible by 7, and halved. So if you read this part of the code, you are able to understand what this segment is doing without even thinking. Now if you take a look at the other part of the code, you see a for loop, and you see two statements, which is numbers I mod 2. Okay, so it's taking the array, it's checking if the index is divisible by 2. Okay, then you again read this segment, and then you read this segment, and then you understand, okay, this is doing something with the numbers, checking if it's divisible by 2, divisible by 7, and then pushing it into somewhere and dividing it by 2 before pushing it. You need to read this code segment a lot of times, and you may even have mistakes while understanding what it does. Like you may forget that this by 2 is right here, but if you look at this part of the code, you just need to read that you have a list of numbers, you filter the even ones, you filter the ones that are divisible by 7, and you map everything to the half of its value, and you get the same results. I guess we have a doubt, and I'll just check. But how does it reduce time? That built-in function filter might be using the same logic. Yeah, we will take a look at how functional programming reduces your time. I'll tell you, because the nature of many of these functions is that they are lazy. Now, what laziness means, we will talk about it a little bit later, and I have a pretty good example that will help you understand what it is. And Manul asks, what is lazy numbers, which is right here. So lazy method is passed numbers, What it basically does is it gives you a sequence of numbers. The method that I am using here is a part of this library, which is called as lazy.js, which just returns me a sequence of these numbers. Rather than an array, we have a sequence. So what we are doing is we are applying these methods on the sequence of numbers that are being returned by this method. And after we have done our manipulations with that sequence, we just convert it to an array. That is what lazy method is doing. Do you understand, Manu, what I meant to say? Abhishek. Guys, did I just resolve your queries? Please respond. I guess uh, they have no more doubts, probably. I think we should proceed now. Yeah, we should proceed. If anyone has any more doubts, they can ask right here. And if you have no more doubts, please uh, tell me that no more doubts and we can proceed. Oh shit, I missed this. I forgot to scroll. Okay, apart from laziness, parallelization is easier to work with. So instead of working sequentially for a loop, since the function is pure, I can apply a function. Okay. Okay, I forgot to scroll. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so we will talk about laziness a little bit later. Just like Ajit said, making your functions and your streams parallel is very easier to work with functional programming, which we will not cover in this webinar, but I can direct you to where you can go and read about stuff so that you can enjoy functional programming a little more. So let's continue. And just like Bill Gates said, that I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. Functional programming tells us that you need to be as lazy as possible. So here we would understand how this lazy library helps me. So we have the same function right here, which is even, is divisible by 7, half it. I've just added a single line in each of them, which just logs the number and a string every time I've called it, just to make sure that, just to check how many times this function is called. So when I run this part of the code, I mean when I execute this command, as you see the log, uh, I get the output and then it stops processing. Let's just see first what the code does. What it does is it checks if the number is even. It just checks if the number is divisible by 7, and if it halves it, and it just gives me the first number that fits all these criteria. Okay, so basically I don't want all of the three numbers that we had in the previous case. Okay, I don't want 14 and 21. I just want the first number that is even and that is divisible by 7. So what it does is it checks for every number, it checks every value until it finds it, and when it finds, it stops. When you do this in the conventional method, you would see that the for loop will not stop until the 49th place or the 49th value in this array, unless and until you write some more code that may also give rise to some side effects. Whereas filter and lazy.js just does it for you, so you don't have to write any more code. So this is what it is meant by laziness. One more thing that I would like to tell you is it is so lazy that if you don't call this filtered, okay, if you don't call this variable anywhere, then you won't get an output unless and until you call this call this method. Okay, unless and until you call this method, you won't the program or the machine won't run these methods unless and until you call filtered somewhere. So it is as lazy as you want it to be. Do we have any doubts? I think we have no doubts, or do we have some doubts? Why didn't it print even I for all? Well, basically what it does is it checks this condition, and whenever this condition is satisfied, it goes into the next method rather than checking for all of the numbers if they are even, and then going to the next method and checking if all of those who are even, which of them are divisible by 7. It just checks if the condition is satisfied first, because what we want right here is the first number that is divisible, is even and is divisible by 7. So that is it. We just check if, okay, the condition is satisfied. I don't need to check for the next number since I have got the first one, right? And it does it on it does this on its own. You don't need to tell it anything. Okay, cool. Do we have any more doubts? I think we don't have any more doubts, so let's proceed with the final part of our webinar, which is reusability and composition of HOS. So this might be a little hard to grasp at first, but I'll try to make you understand this as much as I can. So the first two lines is just again the array and the library that we have imported. Now let's take a look at these three functions. The first function is the is greater than function. Now similarly, like we showed in this code segment, this is a function, right, which takes an argument and returns a value. So in this code segment, this is a function right here, which takes an argument and returns another function, a higher order function basically. So is greater than is actually a function, this function, which takes in a number. No, sorry. This is this function, which returns this function. So when you call is greater than right here and pass it 14, what it will give you is this code segment right here. And whenever you pass another number to this code segment, it will check if the number is greater than 14, the number that it is passed. This method is passed. It will check if the number is greater than 14. Similarly, this is another method, is divisible by, which takes in a divisor and returns another method. Now this method checks if the number is divisible by the divisor or not. So I called is divisible by twice right here, right? Just like in the previous example, we were checking if the number is even and the number is divisible by 7. If you take a closer look at it, these two methods are pretty similar, right? There is just the difference of 2 and 7 in them. So what we did right here is we generalized both of them and created a method, okay, which when passed a number, which is the number which you desire, uh, in this case 2 and 5, and these respective methods return a function which check if the number being passed to it is divisible by this or this. So you can compose other smaller functions like these and create bigger functions like these to generalize the code that you write. So you understand how we have reused this method two times right here. If anyone has a problem understanding this code segment, they can ask. This might be pretty hard to wrap around their heads. The other thing is just similar to the previous example that we saw, which is the filtered array is just this array filtered with entries which are divisible by 2, then the entries which are divisible by 5, then the entries which are greater than 14, and then we square all of those entries and then just get the first one that we want. This is not that important. This is more important right here. If you don't understand me, please ask. I can explain that slide one more time if you are not able to grasp it properly. Guys, are we all cool on this slide? Is divisible by 5. Checks if numbers in numbers are divisible by 5. Yeah, exactly. So this sequence of numbers is given to the filter. Just like we saw in the Pokemon example, the Pokemons are given to the filter and filter just iterates on all of these, right? And checks if each and every object that it's iterating on has the type cat. Similarly, this example, what this filter method does is it iterates on all of these, okay, and this method has returned another method right here, which is just checking if the number is divisible by 2 in this case. If you see this code right here, this is the method that checks if the Pokemon type is cat, right? And here, this method checks if the number is divisible by 2. So yes, is divisible by 5 or 2 checks if the number in numbers is divisible by 5. You can use this method anywhere in your code whenever you want to check if anything is divisible by anything. So you don't need to write this segment of code ever again. You can just call this method wherever you want. You can reuse this wherever you want. You don't need to write this logic ever again. Similarly, this method, you can use it anywhere, same logic. You just need to call this method, pass it the number that you want, and the rest will be just, done. Any more doubts, guys? Okay, okay. So this was pretty hard to wrap around. If this was pretty hard to wrap around your head, but if you really want to explore more of the functional world, these are some libraries that you can check out. Lodash underscore Ramda and daisy.js, which we have used in this one. Another two libraries are Mori and immutable.js, which are for uh, your persistent data structures. I'll be sharing these slides with you after the webinar so that you can check the code out and check these repositories, sorry, libraries. And also we have this button right here which you can click, and this will take you to JS Fiddle, where you can just run the code. Currently JS Fiddle does not support lazy.js, so you won't be able to see the output right here. But if you install lazy.js on your local machine, you will be able to run this program pretty nicely. So now coming back to the libraries, that is the end of the webinar. Thank you for being patient, and if anyone has any questions, they can ask me right now. If we have no more doubts, you can just leave. I'll be uh, recording this for a couple more minutes. If anybody has any doubts, you can still ask me. If we have no more doubts, then we can conclude the session. Just tell me that we have no more doubts. Okay, I hope you liked the session. Again, thank you for being here, and I hope you explore functional programming a little more and do programming in less amount of time. Okay, I guess Karthik has a doubt. What is num in the nested function example? Which one exactly? Uh, this one, right? Okay. So this is the number that is being, iterated upon by the filter method. As we talked about in this example, the filter method iterates on all the Pokemons. Now, this function takes a parameter called Pokemon right here, right? So where is this Pokemon coming from? It is being, given to this method by the filter method from this array. Similarly, this num is being given by the filtered array from this sequence. Okay, cool. Yes, Meet. Yes. Which number does it exactly square? The number that it gets from this filter method right here. Whenever a number is greater than 14, it squares it. If you want to check it, we can run it on my machine right here. Just a second, I'll just stop presenting and share my computer right now so that we can run. Uh, Filter has the lazy numbers. Yeah, it has the lazy numbers. If you want to take a look at how the code actually gets executed, like when does the is greater than method get executed, when the is divisible by method gets executed, we can do it right now if you want to take a look at it. the number which satisfies the above conditions, the number gets filled. Yeah, the first number that satisfies all of the above conditions. Like what it does is it checks if the number is divisible by 2. Whenever it finds the number that is divisible by 2, it just sends it to the next filter method, and it checks if the number which is being passed is divisible by 5. If that is also true, then it sends the number to the next filter, which checks if the number is greater than 14. And if that is also satisfied, then you just square it, and that's where the execution stops. Okay, cool. If anyone has any more doubts, they can ask. Otherwise, you can leave. Uh, the session is pretty much over. I return two functions. What if I return two functions within the head function? Well, how do you exactly plan to return two functions? I don't understand what exactly do you mean by returning two functions. Do you mean to say that a function inside another function, like a three-layered function? Is that what you mean to say? You can turn on your mic right now. We have not many people, so if you want to explain, you can turn on your mic. Yeah.
Hello. So I was telling about like if I want to return two functions within a functions, so like two parallel function within one head function.
How would you do that exactly? A function can only return one thing. You can't return two things exactly. There might be some way to conditionally check, like if one condition is satisfied, then you return a function. If another condition is satisfied, then you return a function. But you can't inherently return two functions from a function.